Good evening. We are live on YouTube and Twitter. Welcome to Cherries Red Army. What an interesting and exciting show we have this evening. We've got fans from Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest and Fulham. We're going to go head to head. We're going to debate many topics as we go for a promotion roundtable debate. And we're also going to let you know who's won our £25 AFC Bournemouth Superstore voucher later on in the show. So make sure you hang around for that. Now, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. We want to grow as we head to the Premier League. And no matter what fan you are, who you're supporting, back your guests this evening and hit that like button. Now, this video is sponsored by our sponsors for July, which is Aquashine Exteriors. Please do check them out. They do cover Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, professional jet washing and cleaning services, including Dorset, Wiltshire and Hampshire. Details in the description, including their website. They've got a before and after portfolio. They're on Instagram as well. Check out their work and there's a number in there to get a free quotation. Also, thank you to our monthly members who contribute every month to support us during the season. And you can become a monthly member by going to buymeacoffee.com/cherriesredarmy or make a one-off donation. This is the best way to support the channel. Now, this evening, I can see you already in the chat. We want to get your thoughts. We want to know who's joining us. So put your name in there. I'll show them on the screen in a moment when our guests join us. But you can get involved, letting us know your thoughts on the topics and any questions. We may show some on the screen. So Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest and Fulham are going to be part of the 22-23 Premier League season. Let's see how the fans are feeling only less than 2 weeks away before opening day. The gloves are off and I will be the host this evening. Yes, I'm a Bournemouth fan. Yes, I'm a season ticket holder, but I'll try and stay neutral and fair where I can. And in the white corner this evening is Matt from Fulham Focus. How are you? Tell us about your podcast. You've been on before and thank you for joining us.
Hi guys, yeah, thanks for having me back. Good to be back. So yeah, Fulham Focus. So obviously we talk all things Fulham once a week. But yeah, so for Fulham fans out there of all ages, just an informal chat really with your mates. Yeah, it's a good laugh.
Please do check out the details in the description. Also, a very warm welcome to our first guest joining us on this Cherries Red Army for the first time. And that's Matt Davies from the Garibaldi Red podcast. How you doing, Matt?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on.
And tell us a bit about your podcast before we get into this debate.
So we come out every Monday morning for about an hour in the morning, about 11 a.m. I've got 3 regular fan guests who join me one every third week, and then former players and journalists, so like Gary Birtles, David Prutton, Darren Fletcher, not the Man United one, the commentator, and then we'll do a midweek stream after midweek games. So normally about 2 episodes a week.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. Now, Aaron, you're supporting Cherries this evening. Some might say outside of the Cherries that this is a tough task for you, but I know what you're like. You're going to get behind Bournemouth. You're going to be optimistic and you're going to give it everything in the next hour.
Yeah, look, of course. As I've said many times before, we got relegated after 5 years in the Premier League. 5 years we never thought we'd have. When we got relegated and Eddie left, I thought that was it. That we've had our time and there was no way back. But we have got back. So, just determined to enjoy it. Obviously, we're going to debates about players, etc., and how ready we feel we are. But no, look, I'm determined to enjoy it. We've seen plenty of doom over the years, so we're going to enjoy the ride.
Okay, let's see how we get on, and we'll bring the topics to the table. Let us know your thoughts in the interactive chat. And I'll come to you first, Matt, at Fulham, as we talk about promotion to the Premier League. Now, you're used to this. I think this is your 4th spell in the Premier League, and when it was confirmed you won the championship, how were you feeling before you led into pre-season preparations?
I mean, what a season it was. Score over 100 goals, 3 7-0 wins as well. We really took the league by storm. Couple of blips, excuse me, but overall, what a great season and what a team we had as well. The best striker arguably ever in the history of the championship. 43 goals for Mitrovic, and he's got it all to prove this season. prove it to a few people in the Premier League. We're really happy, but it's now about maintaining that and going into the Premier League and trying to stay up this time. Third time lucky in terms of promotion from the Championship. Had a nice 13-year spell previously, and then a couple of one-year spells, unfortunately.
Some might say, Matt, that you should have done it anyway. You came down from the Premier League. You had the money. You spent money on Harry Wilson. Was it just the minimum requirement?
I think it's about how you spend your money as well. We were the only of the 3 relegated teams to come up. I think we sort of skirted around financial fair play a little bit. Harry Wilson was a loan with like an obligation to buy. So we were very clever in that. And we just had the squad, and the renaissance of players like Jean-Michel Seri were actually crucial. Tom Kearney coming back from injury as well. The manager came in and this squad was totally on the floor. I'll be honest, the manager who left us previously, your manager, we were in a bad place. And Marco Silva just came in, we just picked up and we just took off and we just didn't look back. So yeah, it was fantastic.
Matt, for Forest, completely different story for you. Steve Cooper comes in, lifts you off the floor, bottom of the table, nearly gets you automatic promotion, gets over the line in the playoffs, and you must be very happy.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was kind of the fairy tale season in a way. I mean, it was an absolute nightmare to start with under Chris Hughton, but to be rock bottom and then to climb the league when Steve Cooper came in, we were talking about where 50 points going to come from, and then they shoot up the league. And those last 2 weeks of the season, I think for Forest fans, we bracket them together: the playoff semi-final, the shootout, the final, which was an awful game, but the celebrations afterwards and the build-up. And then there was a big celebration in town the next day. I mean, for a generation of Forest fans, myself included pretty much, it was, we haven't seen this stuff. So it was literally the best day of a lot of fans' lives, really, who were at Wembley and watched it on TV, outside of marriage, kids and the normal stuff. But in a football sense, even now there's a debate like, will we ever top that emotional high? Because Forest are going to have to win the FA Cup or win the Premier League, even if they qualify for the Champions League. Does it really match the emotions of Wembley? I'm not sure still even now.
Huddersfield fans, some of them said to me they felt hard done by. They felt like they were playing against a 12th man. Even Sky Sports were building it up, heading into that playoff final. And look, Nottingham Forest, I'm sure some will say they're a big squad. They're a big club. They've got the stadium, and 23 years away was maybe too long.
Well, yeah, Huddersfield were hard done by on the day. But then Forest had tough decisions through the season. There was, Luton. There was some scandalous incompetence. Bournemouth away, he probably would have had a penalty in the first half that might have changed that game. I mean, Forest cashed in all their chips at Wembley, but luck evens itself out over the season. I still think, Forest fans will be propping up John Moss's record store if it's ever in financial trouble. But yeah, Huddersfield were unlucky, but I don't think they were good enough on the day. They didn't have a shot on target. I think Forest are better equipped to compete in the Premier League, but, wish Huddersfield well and thank them for Harry Toffolo and Lewis O'Brien.
Yeah, interesting. We'll come to that a little bit later. Aaron, Jason Tindall was tasked with trying to get AFC Bournemouth back to the Premier League. He failed. Jonathan Woodgate came in. He failed in the playoff semi-finals. And Scott Parker, someone who said he was quite close to the club, knowing that he's got a family member in Harry Arter, and he felt like it was a right fit at the right time. He had a remit. He got it done, regardless of how he got it done.
Yeah, look, I don't think we should underestimate the task ahead. As Matt from Fulham said, there was West Bromwich Albion, Sheffield United. Obviously with their parachute payments relegated from the Premier League, West Brom certainly were very highly fancied. The Championship is such a hard league to get out of, as Forest will testify. 23 years. And Leeds as well. We'll speak about, and the likes of Sunderland and Portsmouth who've gone the other direction. So, it's whatever. We did feel we had a very good squad. We did. Obviously at the beginning of the season we had a lot of youth players and we were very, very threadbare. But we did buy sensibly over the season, and we went for a push in January. And as Bournemouth fans, we did feel we had one of the best squads in the division and should have gone up, but it's not always as easy as that. It wasn't as free-flowing, clearly, as Eddie's football. Not many clubs are, if I'm being honest. But as you said, Scott Parker fulfilled the remit. I think towards the end of the season, he endeared himself more to fans, actually showing some of his character, some of his passion. which he kept quite close to his chest throughout the season. But no, he definitely fulfilled the remit. But, you know, it is an odd feeling because I think, as Matt from Forest said, you know, how do you top what they did? And I think for a lot of us, the journey that we went on 7 years ago now, you know, from League Two up to the Premier League within 4 or 5 years, it's very difficult to top that with the emotion of our God leading us through that, you know, and the team, basically a League One team, taking us all the way up and then starting in the Premier League. So it's a very different feeling this time around. I think the last 2 seasons have been the only 2 seasons in our history that we were expected to do something. So that was added pressure on that. So it's a very different feel this time. But as I said, you know, we're looking forward to it.
So all teams were successful. But coming to you, Matt, Fulham, thoughts on your club manager then, Marco Silva? He got his remit done. He picked the players off the floor from the season before. But not many people have a lot of faith with Marco Silva in the Premier League. Do you have faith with Marco Silva in the Premier League this season?
I absolutely do. I really believe this time feels different. There's more of a buzz around the club. It's always amazing to get promoted. You know, we've done it a few times now, and every time is great. But this time just feels different. It feels like he knows what he wants and he knows what he's doing. There doesn't feel like too much insecurity around players. And I mean that in terms of we're going to overhaul the whole squad. And I feel like he's got more control on the signings this summer. Before, it's been Tony Khan and his stat pad, and he's based it off a stats program, and they would be his signings and they wouldn't be the managers. I feel like Marco Silva knows what he wants. He knows who he wants. And I feel like the style of football is going to be a lot better this year. And he's also got the experience of managing in the Premier League. He might have been sacked by Everton and he left Watford and he left Hull, got Hull relegated. But to be fair, that he did a decent job there and he was unlucky for them not to stay up. I honestly think that experience will be key for him this season. And I think it will be key for the whole club. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And I just hope the owners don't make a rash decision in getting rid of him. And if they do get rid of him, I'm worried they do it too early because they have got experience with that.
That's an interesting thing, Matt. And I suppose I was going to ask you, not necessarily knowing how Marco Silva done 100%, because it would have been in another club, but you expect him to attack this Premier League completely differently how he did at those other clubs that he failed at.
Yeah, I mean, the jury's out on him, isn't it? You know, he left Everton in the relegation zone, but before that, he was, I'd say, fairly successful for where Everton were. He didn't do an awful job. So, yeah, as I say, the jury's out. He's got the experience. He knows how to come up against these Premier League clubs. Jokanovic and Parker might have been a little bit naive when we went up with them. So I think the experience is going to be key. And some of the players have now got Premier League experience as well. So they'll be looking to prove a point and actually be part of a squad that can stay up. And also that the new players that come in, they'll want to prove a point as well because they'll want to keep a place in this squad.
Matt Forest, you've got a manager in Steve Cooper, who I think a lot of fans actually respect. I think a lot of fans wouldn't mind a Steve Cooper in their team. I suppose the only unknown is how he'll cope with the Premier League. He did very well in the Championship, nearly got Swansea up, succeeded with Nottingham Forest. But I suppose for Forest fans, this is a very exciting time under a manager that's probably highly rated.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's come in and it's never a one-man thing, but he's largely galvanised the football club and the red half of the city, really, and rebuilt the relationship between the fans and the football club, which was at a low ebb, to be fair, especially under Chris Hughton. Like you say, there's an unknown quantity about the Premier League, as Matt was saying about Silva. There's question marks against him because he's failed in the Premier League. Steve Cooper hasn't been there, so that's a question mark against him. But he's got this big reputation that he's building all the time, especially around developing younger players. And I think, I mean, it might be a bit of a Forest bubble, but I think the feeling seems to be that of the 3 promoted managers, people seem to rate Cooper the highest. I might be wrong about that, but Forest fans have got 100% faith in him. My worry is a bit like Matt's. The owner of Forest has got such lofty ambitions, as we've seen with the transfer policy, that if Forest are a bit twitchy in February or March, or even sooner, does he pull the trigger because he's got contacts? He could go out and get a big name foreign manager, which I really hope isn't the case. And at the moment, I don't think it is. But you do worry a little bit. So that's my biggest concern around Steve Cooper, or alternatively, he does such a good job like Brendan Rodgers did at Swansea, that suddenly Liverpool come knocking. Obviously, that's not happened with Klopp, but a big club could come swooping if Cooper does such an amazing job. But yeah, generally very, very optimistic about him.
We'll talk about pre-season players and transfers in a moment, Matt, from Forest. But is the pressure on Steve Cooper because of the squad he might have at his disposal?
The pressure's on every Premier League manager, isn't it? I mean, you look at Gerrard at Villa, there's pressure on him. You look at Bruno Lage at Wolves, they were miserable at the end of the season. Same for Hasenhüttl, same for Silva, same for Scott Parker, who's got a few points to prove. There's not a Premier League manager who isn't under intense scrutiny. So, yeah, he is under pressure, and he knows it's still a results business, but it's the Premier League. The finances dictate that literally every manager in the league has got a big spotlight on them all the time, really.
Now, Matt know a little bit about this manager, and that's Scott Parker, but I'm going to come to you, Aaron, because he did get the job done. He only scored 27 goals for Fulham in the Premier League when he managed them. This is a different game for him this time. I'm sure you're going to want to prove some doubters wrong. But Scott Parker, how are you feeling about Scott Parker? We know that there's been indifferent performances, but he did get the job done. And that unbeaten 15 early in the Championship was his saviour.
Yeah, and ironically, that unbeaten 15, he had a horrendous hand at the beginning of the season. You know, we had youth players making up the first 11 and unheard of players on the bench for the first 7 or 8 games. So, you know, that was an incredible start considering what we had. And then, we had a mid-season lull for sure. You know, ironically, against the teams lower down the division, we really struggled against teams with a low block against us. We had great results against the top 6 on the whole. I think we only lost 1 in the end, I think, to anyone in the top 6, and 2 or 3 to anyone in the top 12, actually. So our poor results were against the likes of Peterborough and Preston and teams right down the bottom, who literally came to Dean Court and away from home, sat up and with a really low block, as I said. Now, one thing in the Premier League we're not going to get, as is very, very, very much doubt any team in the Premier League is going to come and have a low block against us, because we're going to be the team who everyone expects to score plenty of goals against. So we play better against better teams. I think we've proven that. And Scott Parker, as Matt said, obviously he's had 2 promotions on his CV and 1 relegation, so he's got a lot to prove in the Premier League. Hopefully, we'd like to think he's learned from his time at Fulham in the Premier League, what went well, what didn't go well. Every manager learns from their experiences. I've always been pro Scott Parker. There were times last season when I was frustrated and results weren't always great, as I said, against some of the lower teams. But at the end, he did fulfil his remit, so I'm absolutely right behind him. But the proof will be in the pudding, as we say. Talk of changing formations and trying to obviously have a bit more of a pragmatic approach in the Premier League. You can't go gung-ho against teams in the Premier League as we saw in our 5 years there. You're going to get picked off and against world-class players. But no, I mean, look, I back him. But as the other 2 have said, let's see where we are a few games into the season, and then we'll be able to have a better indication.
Thank you to everyone currently joining us on YouTube and Twitter. When we do put the topics on the screen, do let us know your thoughts, and we will show some of the comments on the screen. And we head into pre-season then, guys, and we're only 2 weeks away from the opening day. And Matt of Fulham, I thought you'd signed more players than you have, but it seems to be more that you just spent chunky money. But he's building a squad that he feels will be competitive. Am I right in that thinking? It doesn't look like it's an over-bloated squad, or am I wrong?
Well, we've been linked with every man and his dog, it feels like. Any transfer rumour, it feels like Fulham are interested, as well as Forest, I think, as well, to be fair. You're always likely to see one of us linked. Just the 3 confirmed signings at the moment, but I'm happy with them. João Palhinha coming from Sporting Lisbon, and he seemed really loved over there. He seems like a fantastic signing at 20 million euros. I unfortunately don't know too much about him. I don't really watch Portuguese football, but from what I hear, he's a good player. And from what I've seen so far in pre-season, he looks really good. Andreas Pereira, again, another player. The jury's out on him. He wasn't great at Man United, really. He was always called the pre-season Pirlo by United fans. But again, he's looked good in pre-season, so I suppose he's living up to his name, really. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can sort of turn his career around at Fulham. In the Premier League, got a point to prove. And then Manor Solomon coming from Shakhtar, winger, Israeli, 23 years old, just turned 23. Seems like a good deal, but only for a year because he suspended his contract. And then you look at who we're linked with, Bern Leno. I mean,
Mm.
what a great player to be linked to. And then we've been linked with the likes of Diop from West Ham as well, Joe Rodon, and then we're looking to get Kevin and Babu over the line. So I think, these are really positive signings, and it doesn't feel like we're just, getting any old Tom, Dick and Harry in like we did do in 2018, spent £100 million, and it ended up being one of the worst teams in the Premier League ever, probably. It was terrible. So I really feel like there is thought going into it this year, despite my reservations about the director of football. But I'm confident in the manager, as I've said, so I think we'll be all right.
Did you mention any outgoings there? If you had many outgoings, I think Seri went to Hull City.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest one. So his contract ran out. And then obviously, actually the biggest one, Carvalho went to Liverpool, which is a massive loss. And I'd say, you never really say that an 18-year-old is irreplaceable in your first team, but actually I think he could be. The guy was so good last year that, I think we need another attacking mid just to help fill the void. Even though Pereira's come in, I'm just not sure it's enough. So Carvalho is a massive loss, really. But we all knew it was going to happen. It was coming. We weren't naive to that. So it's one of those things. It's football. You just move on and you just try and replace him, as difficult as it is.
Interesting stuff. Now, Matt from Nottingham Forest, they have been very, very busy. We probably can't even cover everyone in this stream alone. But if I got the numbers right, 11 players, including the likes of Lingard, Henderson, Toffolo, O'Brien, 50 million plus has to be. They're going for it. It's a big risk involved.
Well, it was enforced really because they didn't have the parachute payment. So like every other championship club that doesn't, they were so heavily reliant on the loan market that the team that won at Wembley, that had 5 key loan signings. Brice Samba, the goalkeeper, kind of engineered his own exit by going public about his wage issues. And then Lewis Graben left as well. So that's kind of 7 key squad members. Tobias Figueiredo's gone as well. So they had to rebuild. Obviously, that does come with a Premier League premium. So the thing about the recruitment is obviously Lingard's made the headlines, but at least there seems to be some kind of thought process behind it. A lot of the players are young with resale value if they do go down or if they succeed, like Nico Williams. Niakate's 26. He's on the fringe of the French squad. O'Brien's 23. They're all quite young. Tayo Arani's 24 and done well in the Bundesliga. So you can see the thinking behind it. It's obviously Lingard's come in on big money, but there's no transfer fee involved. So it's effectively a 8 to 10 million pound signing, depending on what he's on. So Forest fans are still happy with the transfer work that's been done. I suppose the worry is, as with Fulham a few years ago, it takes time for them to bed in and you don't want to be on 0 points after 6 games. I don't think Forest will be that bad, but I do see them being in the bottom 3, maybe after the first 5 or 6 games because our fixtures are so hard. But a lot of optimism beyond that when they do settle.
I mean, Jesse Lingard potentially could have been signed last season for about 20 million quid. Now, you've just said there, really, all they're paying for is wages. Do you think Forest fans are going to be worried about what type of mentality he brings with the numbers and the cash he might be taking in his salary?
No, TalkSport seems to be. They spent about 5 days talking about it, pumping out a video clip saying how he's obsessed with TikTok when he's only ever got 10 videos in his TikTok feed. No, I don't think Forest fans have got that worry. He's not played much football, but now he's got the chance to come and be the main man at a football club. We know Gareth Southgate's a big fan of his, and there's a World Cup on the horizon. So there's motivation there. The good thing is, it's a 1-year deal, so there are risks attached. You might lose him after a year, but if they get relegated, they're not saddled with him on 120 grand or whatever it is in the Championship. If they're giving him a 4-year contract, then I'd be very twitchy about it. But 1 year makes sense, and maybe it's a relationship that continues if Forest do have a good season.
I think if you're in-house, you're probably in for it. If you're out-house, you probably got your reservations. Now, Aaron, for Bournemouth, we've signed 2 players, both on a free transfer. We've gone for Fredericks at right back from West Ham on a free transfer, and Joe Rothwell, who's left Blackburn. I think they're talented players. That's absolutely fine. We probably expected to do a little bit more business here. We need covering a goalkeeper, left back, and we definitely need a starting centre back. How are you feeling about these pre-season preparations in the transfer window with less than 2 weeks before Aston Villa arrive at Dean Court?
Yeah, but not panicking quite yet. I mean, when we went up 7 years ago, we only added a couple of players to that championship winning team. You know, we brought Josh King in for £1 million. From Blackburn, Maxi Gradle came in, Mings came in. That was really it. And as we've said before, the majority of our first 2 or 3 years in the Premier League were that starting 11, give or take, were the team that were in the Championship. So, we've proven in the past that spending loads of money on loads of players isn't always the answer. We've got a settled team. I think, as you said, our first 11 is pretty much still there, bar Nat Phillips from last season, from that team that kind of finished the season. So, obviously we've got Kiefer Moore, who pretty much is like a new signing because he didn't really play last season apart from the last 2 or 3 games when he got 4 or 5 goals. The likes of David Brooks, thankfully, really great to see, obviously beating his cancer, and they hope to have him back October, November time. Again, David Brooks, one of the best players in the Premier League, a couple of years ago, will be like a brand new signing. Junior Stanislas is now fully fit. Hardy played last year. So obviously we've got players who've been there and done it in the Premier League. Phil Billing, Jeff Lerma, Lloyd Kelly, John Solanke, they've all played in the Premier League. So we have got Premier League experience. But as you say, we are short, certainly at the back. That's what worries me. We definitely need 1 or 2 centre-backs for sure. Obviously, we got Chris Mepham, who's a Welsh international, but I don't think we would necessarily start with him. And obviously, Lloyd Kelly is great. But we've been linked with Van den Berg from Liverpool. It looks like that potentially could be happening as a centre-half. We need a left-back up for Jay-Z, for Jordan Zamora. But midfield we're well stocked. I think Joe Rothwell is a great signing. I didn't go to the Bristol City friendly. Obviously, I don't live locally, but he was, by all intents and purposes, one of the best players in that game. He brings us something we don't have. He drives forward with the ball and was great in the Championship last season. So yeah, I would like a bit more strengthening. But as we've said before, last time we never really had a legacy. We're looking at building the training ground, getting our academy up and running in a proper training ground, which cost a lot of money, and maybe spending, like 70, 80 million like Norwich did. And look what happened to them last season. As Matt from Fulham said 2 years ago, spent a lot of money and had one of their worst seasons. So it doesn't always guarantee success, and you've got to be sensible about it. And as many of us have said, of course, we'd love to stay in the Premier League, but a club like Bournemouth, if they become a yo-yo club, I on the face of it, of course, I'd take that. But I would like to be competitive, and I am concerned at the moment that we are short. Certainly, our first 11 is probably okay, but we're definitely short in squad terms for sure.
Trainer Kid says Stanislas will get injured after about 3 games. We do
Probably,
love Junior Stanislas, but we hope not. Eddie Middlebrook has said, hello, gents from Texas. Would love to see this type of show routinely through the season as we all try to stay out. Fair play there from a Fulham fan. Quickly, I'm going to reverse this debate and just go the other way. I think it's only fair that I ask this question. You talked about Bournemouth, Aaron, but what's your thoughts on Nottingham Forest, his transfer business, and Fulham so far?
Well, from a player's point of view, I think from Forest's point of view, they obviously had a lot of lone players. Likes of Jed Spence was absolutely brilliant last season. Garner, etc. Keenan Davis, and I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but they've obviously all departed, and there might be some other ones I've left out. So they got momentum. They're on a roll. Look, like Lingard's an unbelievably good player, and some of the other players they brought in are fantastic players. So of course, look, they've gone from that angle. They've been out of the league for 23 years. They're a massive club, and they want to make sure that they stay in it and not go out. After waiting so long to get back in the Premier League, quite rightfully, that they want to make a fist of it and stay in it. And they had, as Matt said, they had players to replace. We didn't necessarily have that same situation. So yeah, I as you'll see later, I think Forest will be okay. I really rate manager. I think Cooper's a brilliant manager. There's not many sort of young British managers out there that I would want instead of Eddie Howe, but Steve Cooper's definitely highly up there for me. And as far as Matt goes, I think from Fulham, I think he made the point. Marco Silva's had experiences. As he said, he lost his job at Everton. He lost his job at Watford, but then again, who doesn't lose their job at Watford these days? And enjoy your Championship season, Watford down there. So yeah. So I think in the same way I'd like to think Scott Parker would, Marco Silva definitely would be more wily this year and know exactly what theoretically what needs to be done to stay in the Premier League, and might have a slightly different approach. And Fulham, as I said, haven't made a huge amount of signings. They've got the mainstays of their squad last year who were clearly very successful. The likes of Harry Wilson. Look, we had Harry Wilson in the Premier League. I think Harry Wilson is probably one of the best players in the Championship, without a shadow of a doubt. he had moments in the Premier League for us. He's clearly got a wand of a left foot, but he wasn't consistent enough, and he probably struggled there as he did for Liverpool, really, compared to the likes of Harvey Elliott, who made that step up. So it'd be interesting to see how he does. And obviously, look, that elephant in the room about Mitrovic, as Matt said, 40 goals in the season is just astonishing.
I'll come back round, Matt, don't worry. I'll come back round.
Astonishing. And I'm not going to turn around for 1 minute and say he hasn't got a chance in the Premier League. Of course he does. He's a brilliant finisher. But will he? How will he do? That's the big question. So I'm not going to say one way or the other how he's going to do. That's a big question that they'll need. So look. I'd love to say now all three of us would stay up. That's clearly not going to happen, is it? So, but there are clubs other than us three who I'd love to see go down. So that's all I'll say.
Matt from Forest, I'm not sure if you've got enough time outside of your own transfer business to look at Bournemouth and Fulham, but have you got a view on Bournemouth and Fulham's transfer business at the moment? Are you smiling on one side?
I think they've got similar problems. I mean, all three clubs have got issues. Obviously, Forest have signed a lot of players. They have to, and that creates problems. I had a bit of a read about Fulham. I don't know, Matt might correct me, but they seem a little weak defensively in the centre as it stands. Tim Ream, if he's going to play, would scare me tremendously if I was a Fulham fan at his age. So that's a big worry. My thing about Fulham, and this isn't necessarily a transfer thing, that Matt again might correct me, I wonder if they can play a different way than they did in the Championship to win. Mitrovic is such a good focal point. You're going to get the ball to him a lot in the Championship. Can you do that in the Premier League when you're going to see 35% of the ball probably? Is Silva tactically astute enough to win games differently? So, but then Fulham have got a lot of good players. I think Pellegrini looks like a really good signing on paper. And Pereira might be good. He's got a point to prove. So there's a lot of potential with Fulham. But then there's concerns. Similarly with Bournemouth, I think Lerma's really good. Billing looked really good. The left back, Zamora, is it? Yeah. I think he looks really good. And Solanke. They've got this core of players, but there seems to be absolutely zero depth there. Rothwell was a player Forest were linked with. Is he a difference maker in the Premier League? I don't know. Is he meant to be cover? I'm not sure. So... And then Scott Parker, I'm not convinced by Scott Parker yet, personally. He didn't do much. He didn't do a great job at Fulham. And Bournemouth did all their business in January, didn't they, to really go for the Premier League. They signed so many players. It worked. Maybe it wasn't the right strategy now. That have they got enough quality outside of that? I think Kiefer Moore could be really good in the Premier League still. He's an old-fashioned different player. But I certainly have a lot of worries about Bournemouth. I know we'll come to relegation worries, but the more I talk, I'll be more worried about Bournemouth than Fulham, to be honest.
You've already told me your relegation 3, and I've already done an image, so you'll have to change it afterwards, Matt. Matt from Fulham, got to give you your chance as well. What's your thoughts on Bournemouth and Forest? Mitrovic scored 40 goals in the Championship. Can he score 4 in the Premier League?
Oh, I mean, everyone only remembers the last season, don't they? Well, I'll start with Forest. Obviously, I said to you before we come on, Matt, I'm getting a bit of deja vu. All these new signings, all this money spent. But it's about how the signings gel and how you use them. I know for a fact Nico Williams is a good player. I saw him second half of last season. Do I think he's worth £17 million? Probably not, no. But then again, not my money, not your money. It's the owner. So if they think it, fair enough. And I think he can be a good player. And in Forest system, I do think he may thrive. Forest are going for it. And Lingard is a fantastic signing. Whether you've chucked however much money at him or not, take that off the table. He's a fantastic signing. And, Cooper knows what he wants. You've said how good a manager he was. I was hoping we'd get him until we got Marco Silva. I think he's a great manager. And I think he will do well in the Premier League. Whether that's with Forest or whether that's down the line, who knows? But I do think he's got the potential to be a great manager. And fair play to Forest. They're going for it. They're really going for it. And they're trying to take their chance. The owner is willing to put his hand in his pocket. And as fans, that's all you can ask, really. You don't want him to be tight about it. They're going for it. So I can't knock them on that front. And then Bournemouth, as Matt said, I do fear for you guys. I'm sorry. It's obviously... I know what Scott Parker's like. For you guys, I hope it's different next season, because the thing I'll give him credit for is he shored up the defence and we become a very hard team to beat. The only problem is we couldn't score goals. Now, everyone talks about Mitrovic can't do it in the Prem. He didn't play last time. He fell out with the manager. So, and that was clear. That was so obvious because we were playing a winger up front for the first half of the season. So it's about finding the right balance with Parker. Can he get Bournemouth scoring goals? If you can score goals, but also shore up that defence, you might be in with a chance. And we know what Ryan Fredericks is like. He's very quick. He likes to get forward. It's just a good signing in terms of going forward from fullback. But I think you need a few more because those two signings plus what you've got already, I just don't think it'll be enough, unfortunately. But there's still a while to go. I know the season starts in 2 weeks, but the transfer window goes on till the end of August. And I know when he was there, he loved the late deal at Fulham, but so does everyone. So,
yeah. It seems to be that Scott Parker at Bournemouth waits till transfer deadline day, get them all in 3 days before Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. That's likely how it's going to go down, but we will see. We'll also use that evidence of Scott Parker not coping in the Premier League. We need to use that to try and help us. I don't know. We might need something. Right, we've got more topics coming up in this debate. We're going to be talking about players to watch from each team. We're also going to ask the panel what 3 teams they think will be relegated. But first, I'm going to give you guys just an opportunity, a minute and a half, just to have a drink, a sip, and just have a break for a moment, because we did a giveaway a few weeks ago when we did the kit release video, and you had the opportunity to win a £25 AFC Bournemouth Superstore voucher, courtesy of our sponsors, Aquashine Exteriors. We have a winner. This is who's won that gift card. Thank you to everyone who watched our kit release video and entered our competition to win a £25 gift card, courtesy of our sponsors, Aquashine Exteriors. You had to hop into the comments. You had to put the word voucher in there somewhere. And if you did that, you're now going in for a chance to win that voucher. Let's spin the wheel and see who's the winner. Well done to Mark Cole. He wins the £25 gift card, courtesy of our sponsors, Aquashine Exteriors. I'll get in contact with you to make sure we can meet up and hand that over to you. I'd be interested to know if it's going towards a new AFC Bournemouth kit. We'll be doing more giveaways when the season starts in August. You need to become a member at buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army or donate in the month to be in with a chance to win prizes. So get on board. Join us on the journey for the Premier League. Back to the live stream. Also help if I hit the right video at the right time, but we got there. And Mark Cole, he is the winner. I'll get in contact with you, Mark. Well done for that. Let's continue with the debate then, guys, and players to watch. I know we've talked about transfers and players, but really, I want to know just maybe 1 or 2 players, Matt, from Fulham. Who are we looking out for? Can Harry Wilson do it in the Premier League for Fulham this season?
I think he can, and I think this is really going to be his year. He can put a great ball in the box. We all know that. His free kicks haven't quite come off yet for Fulham. I know he did them well for Bournemouth and Derby, so we're waiting for one to hit the top bin there. But he's a really good player, and with the right players around him, I think he'll be fantastic. There's him, and then obviously Mitrovic. You know, people say he's rubbish in the Premier League. Actually, the other year he scored 11 goals in a terrible team. When he plays, he's on fire. He can do well. Last season will only give him a confidence boost. This year, I am putting a lot of faith in him. I do think he can score 15 goals. You know, I might get a lot of stick for that. But he didn't play last time, really. He was on the bench a lot, barely started, didn't get on with the manager. I think this is his year, and I'm hoping he can keep us in the league. But I definitely have faith in him.
We've talked about some players that have come in, Matt from Forest. We've talked about Lingard. We've talked about Toffolo and O'Brien coming in from Huddersfield. We haven't talked about players like Brennan Johnson, who put a massive effort in to get you into the Premier League. I mean, give us a few players that you think will set the world alight in the Premier League.
Oh yeah, you mentioned him there, Brennan Johnson. I mean, I think he's going to be good enough in 2 or 3 years to be playing for Man City or Liverpool. He's got such potential. He's got the ice in his veins, a proper end product. We saw 18 goals over the course of the season, and I think it was 10 assists or something like that off the top of my head. He went and did well for Wales. As Bale moves aside, he'll become a bigger star for them. I think I think he'll be a big success in the Premier League for Forest. He could get. We don't have a Mitrovic. We don't have a Solanke. We don't have someone who's going to get 15 goals or anything, but he could get 10. Lingard could get 10. Awani could get 10, and that's where our goals will come from. But Brennan Johnson is going to be a big star in a few years, I think. And then beyond him, I haven't seen much of Nico Williams. He looks really good. I know someone at Liverpool used to work for Forest in the academy who says he's a great player and a great kid as a person. I think he's going to be really good. And then players under the radar who haven't featured in the Premier League before. Joe Worrell's the captain. He's going to be interesting. I think he'll step up. But Scott McKenna's probably the one. He was the man of the match at Wembley. A real no-frill centre-half. A bit out of fashion. He's not bad on the ball or anything, but he was as good as anyone I saw at the back in the Championship. And I think he's well equipped to step up. So I'd say McKenna and Johnson will probably catch the attention as the season goes on.
Steve Cook getting this side?
Does Steve Cook get in the side? I don't think so. He might do to start with. I feel like Niakiti's been signed to take his place, and Worrell and McKenna are the two nailed on ones. I think Cook's got a big role to play in terms of leadership and being a great figure in the dressing room. I mean, you guys will know more than me, but I don't understand why Bournemouth let him go on a free transfer. He was unbelievable. Well, he was unbelievable for Forest in terms of performance, in terms of leadership, in terms of buying into the club. He's obviously going to be a Bournemouth legend and a Bournemouth man first and foremost, but Forest fans love him, and he's going to end his career full of respect from Forest fans because he's been brilliant as well.
We can't go there, Matt. I promise you, we can't go there. We've been there. That's absolutely fine. Aaron, although Steve Cook would get in this side right now. Players, there's going to be some big moments for some players in this side. Can Ryan Christie score a top bins shot like he used to do at Celtic? Can Jay-Z and Jadon Anthony step up in the Premier League? Can Philip Billing do it in the Premier League after finding himself in the Championship and scoring goals? Can Dom Solanke score more than 10 goals this season for AFC Bournemouth? What players are you looking to hope for can turn up and help Bournemouth on the way?
Well, probably firstly, our player of the season was Mark Travers in goal. The Golden Glove winner last season, saved us so many times. And, I think he's a massive presence and will be, it's a huge season for him because, we're going to have shots rained on us left, right and centre this season. And if he performs like he did last season, it's going to be very difficult to beat him. He's that good. So that's first and foremost. And at the other end of the pitch, obviously, Dom, that he came in under Eddie and often, obviously, played second fiddle to Callum Wilson and Josh King for the majority of his time in the Premier League. Towards the end of that Premier League season, he scored quite a few goals, including a hat-trick. And I think, it wasn't a hat-trick, but a couple of goals in one game. But he's really flourished in the last couple of seasons. And in the same way that Matt said for Mitrovic, Solanke's going back to the Premier League so much better than he left it. He's such a complete striker. His hold-up play, his finishing, his speed. He's so quick and runs with the ball, beats players. So, we'll obviously be looking to him. He played every league game last season, and by hell, we need him fit this season because if he gets injured early on, we're in a huge amount of bother. And as you've already mentioned, the likes of Ryan Christie, does so well for Scotland and did brilliantly for Celtic. And again, it's very similar to Harry Wilson. Is great left foot cutting off for the right wing. And he's going to be instrumental. Lloyd Kelly is a captain. Speed is all important in the Premier League. You need defenders who are very quick, and he is lightning quick. And I think, against as we found last time in the Premier League, it's you need speed at the back. And that's something that he's definitely got. And Jordan Zamora, an unknown quantity. Zamora and Anthony, we entered last time with the likes of Charlie Daniels and Mark Pugh as a partnership, and these two lived together. They're best mates. They came through the youth team. They took the Championship by storm last season, and the big question is, can they step up? And the likes of Dembele, who we bought in January, who I think probably is more suited to the Premier League than Championship. A bit more time on the ball and being able to use his speed and skills. So, yeah, we're looking to all those players really, I think, to do something. But the fact is that they, as I said, injuries for anyone is going to be key. If we can keep that core of players injury free, they're all used to playing together. They've obviously played together for a number of years, and and that should do us, hopefully hold us in good stead.
Taking your chances because you don't get many in the Premier League. Matt, just quickly back over to you, Fulham. Nico Williams at Fulham. Sad to not see him at Fulham this season.
Not for £17 million. I don't think he was worth that. Personally, I just think however many games he played for Liverpool, 13. He was great for us last season. And when he came in, Kenny Tete was injured. He scored a couple of amazing goals, hit the bar from the halfway line. He was brilliant, but then he did get displaced by Kenny Tete, and Tete came back in and played really well. And if we went into the Premier League, would I see him getting in ahead of Kenny Tete in the Premier League? No, absolutely not. And we're about to sign Kevin Mbappe from Wolfsburg for £6 million. I see that as a no-brainer. I just think 17 million was ridiculous, but as I said earlier, it's not the fans' money. If the Forest owner wants to pay it, then that's up to them. But I think way overpriced.
I think if I jump in, Fulham play 4 at the back, don't they?
Yeah, and he's better as a wing back.
And he's been signed as a wing back, playing a 3-4-3 more as an attacking player. I mean, if he was playing as a right back, I'd probably be a bit more worried. And we couldn't get Jed Spence because Spurs wanted him, and you can't compete with Spurs because of Champions League football. So, I mean, 17 million is a premium. I'd accept that, but playing that slightly different role and with a lot of potential, one good season in the Premier League, you double your value. Like Matty Cash going from Forest to Villa for 14 million, and now he's worth 40. So the jury's out a little bit, but I think it could still be really good business.
I'm a big fan of him. I'm a big fan of Nico Williams. I'd love to have seen him at us as well. Yeah.
I really like him. I'd take nothing away from that. I've just, I mean, some of the goals, the goal he scored at Swansea was unbelievable. So it just shows, going forward, he's got it as well. So if it comes to him on the edge of the box, if I was a Forest fan, I wouldn't be worried for sure, because I reckon he could put it in the top corner, no problem. So, you've got yourself quite a versatile player there.
He's great mates with Brennan Johnson as well. I mean, they're Wales teammates. They went on holiday together through the summer. There's going to be a good link up there because Brennan just out to the right. So I think it's a good signing for Forest, but maybe a lot of money for other clubs.
Can't knock partnerships, just like Jayden Anthony and Jordan Zamora. They spend every minute together. You can't knock it. Now, when those fixtures came out, guys, we all probably looked at it and thought we probably got to try and get to 37 points. And we're going to get your thoughts on the opening fixture and the start of the season. Right, let's come to you, Matt Fulham. You've got Liverpool at home, Wolves away, Brentford at home, Arsenal away, Brighton at home, Spurs away. No easy game in the Premier League. How many points are you looking for in the first 6? Talk me through those opening fixtures.
I mean, I suppose you've got to play everyone, haven't you, at some point? But to see Liverpool first home game, you just think, oh God,
it's a good thing. Is it not a good thing?
I suppose you want to get it. You want to get it out of the way, I suppose. But at the same time, it's a tough start. But then, as I say, you've got to play everyone. So at the end of the day, I don't really mind who comes where. I look at those 6, and I think we've got to be targeting the Wolves, Brighton and Brentford games. All right, we might not get 9 points out of those, but we've got to be looking to win them. Brentford and maybe Brighton will be sort of in the bottom half of the table next year. So we need to target. And who knows? I mean, we beat Liverpool at Anfield last time and drew at home. So we can do it.
Scott Parker masterclass, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, less said about that, the better. But yeah, listen, I'd be happy, more than happy. I'd be overjoyed with 6 points from the first 6 games. Will it happen? Oh, I don't know. But I don't see why it can't. Stranger things have happened. If we get more, I mean, even if we go, I'll be on cloud cuckoo land for those first 6 games. If we get more than 6 points, but that'd be great.
Nottingham Forest, I look at this Forest team potentially like I looked at Bournemouth in 2015-16, that you might just play on enthusiasm, being excited, no Premier League football for 23 years, and go into some of these games and just not necessarily win them technically, but just win them through wanting it more potentially. And Nottingham Forest, they've got Newcastle away. Eddie Howe has to hit the ground running. West Ham at home, Everton away, Spurs at home, Man City away, Bournemouth at home. Some good away days there for the Forest fans. They're going to want to get some points on the board, Matt. How many do you get in the first 6?
It's a tough start, isn't it? You don't write off games, but Man City and Spurs, you can not far right off, really. Maybe a Spurs at home, so you maybe hope for a point there, but realistically, you probably lose that. I don't know. Newcastle haven't gone crazy in the transfer market yet. There's going to be a weight of expectation there. So I don't think Forest will win, but maybe they nick a point, and that's a good start. We'll come on to relegation teams. I think Everton is a game to target this early in the season. And then West Ham at home. There's going to be such a carnival atmosphere that first game back. I think they can get something there. And obviously, we're going to target Bournemouth, being honest, being at home. So if they can get 7 points from 6 games, if they get 6 points from 6 games, I'll still be happy with that. You win against Everton, hopefully, and you beat Bournemouth, hopefully, because it's a home game. And then you try and nick a result somewhere. I think anything between even 5 to 8 points isn't a bad return, because then you're moving into better fixtures. Forest have got an easier run after that, as I think all 3 of our teams have got better fixtures after this tough start.
Aaron, we started our Premier League season in 2015-16 at home to Villa, lost 1-0. In this season, we'll be at home to Villa, away to Manchester City, at home to Arsenal, away to Liverpool, home to Wolves, and then away to Nottingham Forest. Billing likes a goal at the City ground. You're looking at those first 6 games. What are you hoping for? How many points on the board?
A point? No. And also, look, I think the others have said it. Look, we have actually got probably the 2 hardest games of the season, City and Liverpool away in the first 6 games. Done, dusted. However many they're going to score against us, fill your boots. See you later. That's gone. Arsenal at home's a funny one, because obviously we beat them, a couple of times in the Premier League. And Arsenal are a funny team. I fancy clearly Arsenal to get top 6 this season. But away from home, they always work with a soft belly. But Villa at home is an interesting one. It could be far. Look, first of all, being at home first day is always nice. And being at home to a club who's not going to be in the top 8 is always a bit of a bonus. And I don't think Villa will be in the top 8. So, of course, we've got a chance against them. But as with every Premier League team is decent. Villa especially have got some good players and they've made some good signings. Love to think we get a point at home first day of the season. Again, Wolves at home, we kind of target. No one really knows about Wolves this season. They're a funny club. That manager doesn't really have much about him, and they've lost some key players. So under the lights at Dean Court, I'd like to think that might be a positive result at home to Wolves, and away at Forest if we can nick something, a point or something. So I'd bite your hands off for 5 points in those 6 games, considering who we've got in them. If we can get a win and a couple of draws, it'd be brilliant, but be tough. But if we can get something like that, 4 or 5 points, get out of that with those games gone, then delighted. But yeah, we'll look for that.
Please do hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel and get your comments in. If you weren't able to join us live, just let us know your thoughts below. We will read every single one. And I did give the guys some homework to do when I sort of welcomed them to the show and said, thanks for joining us this evening. And they know what's coming now, because I wanted to know who they think will be the bottom 3 teams to be relegated. Very early on, that we've had a bit of a stab in the dark. And this is what they said to me. I don't know. Can you remember, guys, what you said to me? I am going to share on the screen.
Yeah, I'm going to backtrack on mine, but yeah.
Okay. But I did ask them to send me the 3 teams they think at the time we're going to go down, and we're going to go through it now. Right, Matt, Fulham, this is what you initially said to me. If it's the same, great. If not, adapt it. But you told me that Fulham were going to finish 14th, Brentford 18th, Leeds 19th, and AFC Bournemouth rock bottom 20th. Talk me through it.
I mean, first of all, sorry guys.
Thanks.
Yeah,
invite you on here, talk about the Premier League, and you put us rock bottom.
I did apologise when when I said it. I'll start with Fulham 14th. I mean, it is probably quite lofty, but as I said, I'm a bit more confident this year. I'm confident with Marco Silva. I like the players that we've signed already. And I do think that the players that we will eventually get in, hopefully the likes of Bern Leno, especially, and then a decent centre-back, will keep us up. I think we can go on a decent run. And I just think the Premier League experience that we have in the squad and Marco Silva will be key. Bottom 3, I think Brentford are going to struggle. Christian Eriksen going is massive. One of my good friends is a Brentford season ticket holder. I've been chatting to him and he just said it's huge. You can't replace him. They're going to really struggle. And then I think the signings, Keane Lewis Potter for 16 million. Again, good player, a bit overpriced. Aaron Hickey, 22 million, slightly unproven in my opinion. A lot of money again. I think they'll struggle. And then, Leeds obviously lost some big players, big players. Rafinha, Calvin Phillips. And the signings they've made, they might be fantastic. They might be brilliant. Rafinha came in and he was brilliant. But I'm not sure. I think their manager will struggle. I don't think he'll see past end of January. I just think he'll be gone. I think they'll get rid. And then obviously Bournemouth. Listen, I base that one on signings so far. 2 free transfers. I know what the manager's like. Obviously, I can't use that excuse forever. For your guys' sake, I hope he stays up. But, Parker sort of ruined us, really. So there's no love lost there for me. But, you never know. Anything can happen. You guys might sign 8 unbelievable players and take the league by storm. But, basing it off the moment, that's how I've got to go. So, yeah, I'll stick with those. But as I said earlier, deja vu with Forest a little bit, spending all that money, all those signings. I don't think you'll be as clear as some people think. But, I think you will have enough just about.
Matt, I'll take scoring inside 10 seconds from the halfway line again, to be fair. That'll be my highlight of the season. Now, Matt from Forest, you gave me your predictions. You sound like you're going to change it. But you
change
went
one of them. Well, yeah, I'll change the
15th. Let me read out the ones you originally gave me. 15th for Nottingham Forest, 18th for Everton, 19th Leeds, and Fulham rock bottom 20th. But you sound like you want to change it.
I think I'll change the Fulham one. It was done on limited research and listening to Matt. Maybe I've been a bit unfair. Let's look around. The defensive frailties really worried me about Fulham, but if they do address them, then I think they've got a bit more quality with Polinia, and Harry Wilson's got a point to prove, and I think Tom Kearney's a good player who can still do it in the Premier League, and Mitrovic. So if Silva is tactically adept, then I think Fulham could stay up, and I probably would replace him with Bournemouth. Sorry. I think, they just don't have enough depth, do they? Like Aaron said, if Solanke gets injured, I mean, they're screwed, really. I don't see how they compete if anything happens to Solanke. So that worries me. And Scott Parker, like I said, he worries me as well. So I'd swap that. But I think the thing is, there's a clutch of teams this year that I think are going to be pretty average to poor. I mean, you look at Everton getting battered by Minnesota United, who are, a second-rate American team, and Lampard comes out and basically blames anyone but Frank Lampard. He doesn't seem a manager for a struggling team to me. Jesse Marsh at Leeds, like Matt said, I don't think he's going to last. Brentford, again, like Matt said, Ericsson, such a big loss. They were in free fall until Ericsson came last year. So I'd worry about them. Southampton, eventually all this sailing catches up with them. So there's a clutch of teams that I think all our clubs are competing with. But I think Leeds, Everton, and I do worry about Bournemouth. I think if I was picking right now, they'd be my 3.
You did it politely. I mean, Eddie's enjoyed his night tonight, Matt from Forest, and he said, I was about to take Matt Davies off the Christmas card list. He just totally redeemed himself.
Well, Bournemouth fans, I mean, I'll be on the Bournemouth bad list, but I think after what happened with the windstorm and everything, I don't think many Forest people are on Bournemouth Christmas card lists anyway.
We ain't got time for that one either. Right, Aaron, you've given me your 3. Probably been optimistic at this stage, but I did ask you for 3. You're not going to put Bournemouth in the bottom 3. I'm sure of that. You didn't. You put Bournemouth 17th. We're going to stay up just about. Everton 18th. Leeds 19th. Fulham rock bottom again. Are you changing this one?
No, I'm not going to change it. I mean, obviously, I had same thoughts as Matt Davies from the Everton Leeds. Look, I mean, it's interesting because when we went up, I keep harking on about it, because when we went up last time, everyone had said, well, we'll be straight back down, and we got arguably a much better squad than we had back then. Certainly a better team than we had back then, and we obviously probably had Eddie Howe. It's a big difference. So, obviously we survived 5 seasons after being tipped to be bottom every season. So this time we got players of Premier League experience. But it's going to be tough. I couldn't put us in the bottom 3 because that's just not my nature. So I put us at 17th and just surviving. And again, look, I think both Forest and Fulham will struggle as well as us. But I put Fulham down there. I might well be proven wrong. Clearly, it's who knows? Anything can happen. But I think Matt Davies is right. I think there are a host of teams. It's difficult. There's Premier League is such a difficult division, but there are a host of teams. Brentford, as mentioned, second season syndrome, lost Ericsson, didn't put them down, but I think they might just about be okay. Southampton, obviously, I'd love to see down there. Hasenhüttl's like, one minute, he's one of the world's best manager, the next minute they want him out. So you never know with Southampton what they're going to do, but they could be weak. And for the same reasons as Matt said, Everton just about stayed up last season. They've lost arguably their best player, Richarlison, who saved them on countless occasions. Still not a massive fan of Frank Lampard as a manager. I think he could be in a lot of trouble, and I think Everton are in a bit of dire straits at the moment. We can't really spend any money at all. Looking like Gordon might go as well, so they really are in a bit of trouble. Massive club. Don't really want to see them go down, but I think they might struggle. And Leeds, I won't be crying over them if they go down. I thought they were going to go down last season. They've lost, as you said, Phillips, Rafinha. Bamford will stub his toe on the first day of the season and be out. It couldn't happen to a nicer set of fans. So I'll see Leeds go down. Look, as I said at the beginning, I'd love to replace Fulham with Brentford or Southampton. I'd love to see all three of us stay up and three of the more established teams go down, but it's going to be very, very tough.
I tried to stay neutral. I am sort of the referee in this debate this evening, but I do worry about Leeds. I don't worry about them, but I think they're in trouble. I do think that this Frank Lampard is potentially in trouble, and the second syndrome for potentially Brentford. You never know how that happens. What I do know, Bournemouth fans, is we will finish 17th. Hopefully we'll stay up. It's been an interesting evening. It's been great to have these guests on. Please do hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Get your comments in if you weren't able to join us live from the start. And thank you to everyone who's interacted. Thank you to our sponsors, Aquashine Exteriors, and our monthly members. Please do join us at buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army if you want to support the channel. And finally, guys, thank you so much. Aaron, we're going to see more of you because you're part of the channel. It's all coming very, very soon. It's going to be week in, week out. This has been good, though, speaking to opposition guests. It's been respectful, a bit of banter. And we're going to see how this Premier League plays out. Yeah, look, can't wait. Can't wait for football, first and foremost, to start again, get on the road, coming to matches again. Yeah, really looking forward to it. And yeah, as I said at the beginning, never really expected it. So really determined to enjoy it. And it'd be great if the four of us or get together maybe during the World Cup and review how the first bit of the season's gone. It'd be great. Matt Davies, great to meet you. Wish you all the best with the podcast. Do just remind us again the podcast, and if you want to tell us where you can find that podcast for any fans that want to check out the opposition side of Nottingham Forest.
Garibaldi Red, and you can find us on iTunes and all the audio platforms. And we've got our own YouTube channel if you just search Garibaldi Red on YouTube. And if you're on Twitter, it's at Garibaldi Red _ I think that's right. But then we'll post video clips and everything and episode plugs there. So yeah, that's us. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Really appreciate you coming on. It's been a good debate for you. I'm hoping as well to speak to Bournemouth fans and Matt from Fulham as well. Thanks very much. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Matt from Fulham, come to you, actually give you your chance as well. Make sure you tell us about Fulham Focus. You've been on before, but it's been interesting to have you on again, and I'm sure you're ready for the season, but do remind fans where they can find you, and thank you very much. Yeah, of course. So obviously on all your podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundClouds, Fulham Focus, just have a look for us there. On Twitter at Fulham _Focus, articles, podcasts, etc. Looking ahead to the season, so it'll be a good one. And yeah, thanks for having me on again, guys. I'm sure I'll see you soon. Be great if we could all stay up. We wish you the best. We hope Bournemouth don't suffer off the back of one of your football teams, but we do appreciate you coming on. Final closing comments from the chat. John says Mitro will be lucky to get 10. We will see. And we got Leeds will sack their guy and get Ted Lasso. And Erling Haaland's taken time out from his Man City preparations to pop in and say hello. Really appreciate that. And Chris says, thanks, Kirk. Great show. Appreciate it. Right. Make sure you check out our guest channels, their podcast. Thank you to Aaron from Bournemouth. We'll see you soon. Check out content, hit the notification bell. More coming leading up to the Premier League season. But from us on this debate, it's been interesting. We'll see how the Premier League goes. Will all three stay up? We'll find out come May. Look after yourselves, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you, guys. See you soon.